Hey guys, so welcome to episode 2.5 of my Epistemology series. So the reason I wanted to do like a half episode is that I wanted to clarify some things from the last episode, and I also wanted to mention some things you should keep in mind and that I think are important to know as we go on this quest for true knowledge. So the two things are the criterion of knowledge and knowledge's instrumental value, or just value at all. And I guess we can start off with the criterion. So last episode I mentioned that the JBT equals K, the classical account of knowledge, or the justified true belief equals knowledge, conception is probably the most used today. And I wanted to explain like the two main approaches or viewpoints or methods as to how you find the criteria for knowledge. And those two main views are particularism and methodism. And those are pretty big words, right? So I'll try to unpack them and make them as digestible as possible. So basically the particularists are saying that you should find specific cases of knowledge and then derive the subcomponents, or just the subcomponents for knowledge through that. So you find, okay, this is a case of knowledge. What does knowledge consist of in this case? The Methodists, on the other hand, think that you should find the criteria first and then find knowledge through the criteria. One famous Methodist, for instance, was René Descartes, who we will visit in later episodes. So most people today, like most philosophers and most epistemologists, they are particularists. It's a somewhat more modern viewpoint. So yeah, it's the most popular and probably the most recognized. So just to summarize quickly, it's particularists who say find cases of knowledge first and then the subcomponents, and then you have the Methodists who say find the criteria first and then the cases of knowledge. So just keep this in mind as we go through the rest of the series, as I think having these two different viewpoints is it's important to keep in mind. So the next question I wanted to address is the value of knowledge. Does knowledge need to have a value? I mean, epistemology is a branch of philosophy entirely dedicated to finding out what knowledge is, right? Which sort of implies that there is something inherently valuable about it. But one question thereof is the value instrumental or non-instrumental? And the difference there is quite important. Instrumental value means that it's practically useful in some way. Non-instrumental means that it's valuable in its own right. You know, like friendship is non-instrumentally valuable, because it's just valuable in and of itself. Everyone enjoys friendships, although they might not give you anything practical, just having someone to share stories with and go out drinking, you know. So this is an important question, right? And there are good cases to be made that knowledge has to be instrumentally valuable, or it is instrumentally valuable. For instance, if you have a map, then that map orients you practically in the physical world. So having knowledge of where things are through the map is instrumentally valuable. But then you can also consider a map that is false, but just happens to be right on some occasions. You know, like if you look at the town center, you see that the map is way off. But if you want to find a restaurant, the map is accidentally right. So then you have a true belief, but it's not knowledge, as the map is just accidentally correct, right? And we went through that the last episode, that knowledge has to be justified and to be true. This is not justified using a fake map, right? But your belief of where the restaurant is still true. So the instrumental value here seems to be very messy instantly, right? Well, Plato had something to say about this, and he said that for value to be for knowledge to be instrumentally valuable, it has to be stable and sort of tie you to the truth. If you have a map that works, it will orient you reliably and consistently in the world around you. If you have a fake map that's just like when it's right, it's just happy accidents, you wouldn't consider that a good map, and you also wouldn't consider that knowledge, although it would be instrumentally useful in some occasions, it wouldn't be stable at all. So it seems to be that knowledge is more stable and therefore more instrumentally valuable than mere happy accidents, true beliefs. So the reason I wanted to address this entire question in the first place is that this is a large topic, and most subcategories and viewpoints and all those things within epistemology have their own thing to say about this topic. And for me personally, I find this discussion to be kind of on the sideline, as it's very difficult to say if knowledge needs to have value instrumentally or not. Ernest Sosa, which is a famous epistemologist, stated that the search for knowledge is good, but knowledge in itself may not be valuable all the time. So that's a viewpoint I think I share. And as I stated earlier, I think the entire is knowledge valuable, does it need to be valuable, instrumental versus non-instrumental, so on and so on, is a separate discussion. And it's more of like a meta epistemological question than it is an like what is knowledge type of question. So perhaps I'll return to this later on, but for now just keep in mind that particularism and Methodism are the two main different approaches to like how do we figure out what the criterion are. And the instrumental value debate is big and complex, but there seems to be a case where instrumental value and knowledge are often tied, but not a necessary rule for knowledge. The same thing goes with true belief, but true belief is less stable than true knowledge. So now I've clarified some things, perhaps you've increased your knowledge and abilities of deducing the truth, and hopefully you'll follow the rest of the series much better now. So, see you in episode 3.